Honestly, bro, I feel like of all the various kinds of apocalypses, this one would be the one with the highest odds of survival. Like by a good margin. Demons and Hellspawn invade Earth, I'm getting waxed for sure. If the Earth's core stops rotating and now there's like some kind of meltdown, I'm cooked for sure. But an enemy with multiple glaring weaknesses like this, I think you have to go out of your way to not survive. I'm Brandon O. This is Terrorific, and we're chopping up 1986's Maximum Overdrive. Welcome back to the place where it's perpetually spooky season. If you're just joining us, this season is all about breaking down the horror film adaptations of the works of Stephen King. Be sure you're following at Terrorific Podcast on IG because leading up to each episode, I'm posting a response box on my story for folks to guess what movie that episode will cover. And if you guess correctly, I'll shout you out by name in that episode. I didn't give any hints for the season premiere, but this time I did, and the hint was just one word, green. And the guesses that I got back were interesting. I got insomnia, a couple of pet cemeteries, even the Green Inferno, but the overwhelming response back was the Green Mile. Now, on one hand, that's a good guess. I mean, it's a Stephen King work and it has the word green in it. But on the other hand, do you really think I would be that obvious with the hints? That wouldn't be much of a hint, you know? I'd be kind of giving it to you. So I try to pick things that are a little bit more subtle than that, but A for effort. There was one person who did correctly pick up what I was putting down. And not for the first time, because in her own words, she possesses a deep knowledge of useless shit. So shout out to Missy from the Grimly podcast for once again guessing correctly. I'm still trying to find something that will stump her. I got 10 more opportunities, I guess, this season. And it needs to happen because this is like 3 in a row at this point. I'm trying to take it personally. It's a challenge for me. Like, there's no way you can guess all these things. Like, I don't want to make my clues like too nebulous or whatever, because I do want people to guess it correctly. But at the same time, I can't have someone batting 1,000, bro. But anyway, I highly recommend checking out Grimly's full catalog, but especially their most recent episode 103, Ghost Optimistic, which explores the history of the Overbrook Asylum in New Jersey. And there's a guest on that episode whose voice you may recognize. Wink, wink. But this is the sister episode to the Terrorific bonus released last week, Tunnel Rat Tartar, where the ladies of Grimly and I chopped up 2011's Grave Encounters and how the haunted patients of the Collingwood Psychiatric Hospital went around skeeting ectoplasmic material all over the walls. So check that out and enjoy the unhinged ride. But last episode we covered Dreamcatcher, and this time we're keeping with the theme of interstellar threats with Maximum Overdrive. So this film was based on Stephen King's 1973 short story Trucks, in which a small group of strangers find themselves trapped together in a freeway truck stop diner after semis and other large vehicles are suddenly brought to life by an unknown force and proceed to massacre every human being in sight. The movie alters things somewhat, which I'll get into in a bit, but it stars Emilio Estevez as Bill, Pat Hingle as Mr. Hendershot, Laura Harrington as Brett, John Short as Curtis, Holter Graham as Deke, and a host of others. The film has gained a bit of a cult following, but not everyone feels so fondly about it, including Stephen King himself. This is the one and only film he's directed. He openly admitted to battling a cocaine addiction from 1978 to 1986, which would of course include the time Maximum Overdrive was produced, and it shows. The pacing is frantic, chaotic, and the soundtrack is comprised solely of AC/DC. It's pedal to the metal for real. Production began in May of 1985 in North Carolina, and camera assistant Sylvia Giulietti claims that Stephen King loved to pair his lines of blow with sardines every morning, which meant that he'd be out there with cocaine-fueled fish breath all day long. Bro, that is absolutely unhinged behavior. Can you imagine being on set with one of the world's most famous authors who's also making his directorial debut, and his breath just smells like ass the entire time? The only thing worse than ass breath is someone being unaware that they have ass breath, or worse yet, they are aware they have ass breath and just don't care, bro. So, god damn. And this in the summer too, in North Carolina. I know they were cooking. I know his breath had to smell like super steaming swamp fish booty, bro. God damn. But doo-doo mouth wasn't the only problem on set. Producer Dino De Laurentiis brought in a crew comprised mostly of Italians, which presented a language barrier. The film cinematographer Armando Nanuzzi did not speak any English, so Stephen King would be given instructions and Nanuzzi would just nod and say yes, yes, yes without understanding anything. Kind of hard to direct a major motion picture if your cinematographer does not understand what you're trying to direct. But Stephen King also apparently didn't understand what he was trying to direct, because according to Giulietti, despite King's brilliant mind, he didn't know where to put the cameras. And he wasn't great at explaining himself like a director. He struggled with translating his vision into something tangible and creatable. And to add injury to insult, there was an on-set accident where a remote-control lawnmower lost control and crashed into a block of wood that was being used to support the camera. The lawnmower shredded the block and shot splinters all over the place, with one firing directly into Nanuzzi's right eye, which he would end up losing and later sue King and the production company for $18 million in damages. But eventually they settled for $975K. And that's a big ass gap, bro. Like, I understand that, 18 million might have been a pretty high number, but going from 18 mil to under a mil, that's still a lot of money. But damn, like, what kind of lawyers do these fools have? That's like, hey, yo, give me $100. No, but I'll give you 18 cents. Shit, alright. But Emilio Estevez told Vanity Fair in 2021 that Maximum Overdrive is the one film he regrets making, but that he couldn't pass on an opportunity to work with Stephen King. And Estevez was nominated that year for the Worst Actor Razzie for his role as Bill, and King was nominated for Worst Director. And just in case you're not familiar with what the Razzies are, because you know what they say about assuming things, the Razzies, that's the nickname for the Golden Raspberry Awards, which started back in 1981 as an annual parody of the Oscars, where they honor the worst performances in cinema. But I didn't think this was that bad of a film. Yes, it's campy and nonsensical at times, but it's decently fun. The practical effects are there, and when it's viewed through a 2026 lens, it may have been a bit ahead of its time regarding the dangers of intelligent machines. The film holds an average rating of 2.5 on Letterboxd, and I rated it a 2.5 as well. So Maximum Overdrive kicks off with a shot of Earth, and then we get like a text overlay that provides some exposition telling us that Earth has entered into the tail of a comet and it will remain there for about 8 days. And this tail causes machines to come to life and go on murder sprees, not just big rigs and heavy machinery, but all machines. So that aspect is already diverging from the source material, plus we know what's causing the machines to turn into murderous maniacs. It's this comet, not some unknown, unseen force. Now, of course, every single machine on the planet doesn't necessarily have the capabilities of causing physical harm to human beings, so that provides an opportunity for some comedy. So we see a patron go to an ATM machine, and the machine just calls him an asshole repeatedly with its text on the screen. And this patron is played by Stephen King himself in a cameo. But it's not long before chaos ensues, because nearby there's a drawbridge that has heavy traffic passing over it that is controlled by machinery, and it begins to lift up while these cars are trying to cross. So they begin sliding down and running into each other. People are flying through windshields. There's like a fruit truck that apparently has like the heaviest watermelons ever known to mankind, because they come crashing down through someone's windshield and just like completely fuck shit up. And this helps establish early on why they decided to stray somewhat from the source material by having any machine or all machines be able to go haywire as opposed to just large vehicles. You provide an opportunity for just wild ass shit, and they take advantage of that opportunity. So after this drawbridge fiasco, we transition to the main location for the rest of the film, which is the Dixie Boy truck stop. And here one can find food, fuel, and fun. It has a diner, a gas station, and an arcade. But a big rig with a giant green goblin face adorning its grill pulls into the truck stop. At this point, it still has a driver, so everyone is unaware of what's going on out in the world. Now, the gas station attendant, Duncan, begins pumping gas into the big rig, and eventually the pump stops. So dude's like, yo, what's going on with this? And he's like trying to inspect it, and he puts the nozzle right in his face to peer down it. And of course, diesel comes spurting out right into his eyes, and he gets all kinds of fucked up. So as Duncan rides around on the ground in pain, we head inside the diner, and that's where we are introduced to Bill, the cook. He's a parolee, and his manager, Mr. Hendershot, takes advantage of that by having him work longer shifts than he clocks in for, which is rude as fuck. Bill was in the middle of making some eggs when Mr. Hendershot called him into the office to explain how he was going to take advantage of him, and in the meantime, Wanda June, one of the servers, hops on the cooktop to man it for him. And pardon my ignorance, I have never worked in the service industry, so I could be completely wrong here with what I'm about to say. But Wanda June was cooking what had to be the worst eggs ever known to mankind. Like, she fucked these things up, bro. They were like all burnt and broken and just looked absolutely insane. And as a person who works in a diner, I mean, I don't know how like cross training works in a restaurant, but one would think that most, if not all, employees there, especially someone who's a server, would know how to cook some eggs. And it was an absolute train wreck. But I guess she was trying some like new egg preparation method, because for some reason there is an electric carving knife on the counter next to her. So as she is flipping these eggs, it comes to life and slices the fuck out of her arm, and blood goes everywhere. But on the bright side, the eggs were already inedible to begin with, so adding a little blood on top doesn't make it any worse per se. But she's like, yo, what the fuck? My arm's fucked up. How'd this happen? And this being the 80s, which I mean could still probably happen today, the diners at the counter are like, oh, are you all right, sweetheart? You having some trouble back there? Like, having some trouble? Bro, like her bone is like showing through her arm and shit. Like, what do you mean having some trouble? Like, where is the concern here? But Bill, being our brave hero, runs over to assist. He tends to Wanda June's wounds, and yet this carving knife is not done with her yet. Now it's kind of rolling around on the floor trying to go and fuck her foot up. And so Bill grabs a hammer and beats the shit out of this thing and kills it. While all this ruckus is occurring, there's a person in the arcade by himself, and the machines start going crazy in there, like spraying coins and shit all over the place. So he's like, hey, this is free money. So he picks them up and starts pocketing them. And one of the games ends up like hypnotizing him by flashing some shapes and some patterns on its screen. And so as he approaches it, he touches this game station and he gets electrocuted, like some crazy super storm type of electrocution. It's wild. He's completely cooked. And I had to do a double take because this dude looked familiar. I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then I aged him in my mind by like 40 years. And I was like, oh shit, this is a young Giancarlo Esposito. Probably best known for playing Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, but now that the machines have taken out exactly 50% of the minorities in the entire film, they turn their sights to children next. So we transition to a baseball field, and there's a little league coach who's going to a vending machine to grab a soda. And as he enters his selection, a can shoots out and hits him directly in the balls, bro. And his players start laughing until more cans start absolutely wrecking this dude. He takes one to the chest, and as he collapses to his knees, he takes one to the dome right above his right eye. Now, a couple of the kids also get knocked out with cans too, because this thing just starts spraying them everywhere, like super high speed. As the rest of the team scatters, we see a player biking across the field and he gets tripped up somehow. I think maybe the sprinkler head might have popped up and tripped him. And so he flips over his handlebars. At this point, a fucking steamroller comes crashing through the fence from the outfield and absolutely flattens this kid, bro. But one of the kids, Deke, manages to escape on his bike, and we'll see more of him later. But not long after Lil Homie is turned into pizza dough, we are introduced to Brett. She is a young woman who is riding in a car with a sleazy middle-aged dude who keeps feeling up her leg. She's a hitchhiker. She's trying to get to Florida. And while she's listening to the radio, she hears a message about reports of strange occurrences and that everyone should avoid major roads and highways. And of course, they are currently on a major road/highway. This perv is a traveling Bible salesman, but the only trinity he appears to be interested in is Brett's boobs, butt, and punani, so he missed every single word on that radio broadcast. But Brett channels her best Jesus impression and grabs the wheel to force him to get off the highway, and they end up pulling into the parking lot of the Dixie Boy. Actually, let me rephrase that, because pulling into the parking lot really undersells what happened here. They come like careening in like wildly. His hubcaps on the car just like fly off and roll away and all this shit. And once they eventually come to a stop and they hop out, he's all upset because Brett touched something that belonged to him without his permission. Oh my goodness, is that irony? But she's not trying to hear a word that he's saying, so he's kind of just like blowing hot air. But as he does this, that green goblin truck comes to life and accelerates towards him and almost runs him over before Brett pulls him out of the way. Way to be the bigger person there, Brett. But this is the first instance of what's going to become a recurring theme in this film, of people just standing in the path of a murderous vehicle heading towards them and not trying to move out of the way at all. But you know who doesn't have that problem? My man Curtis. So Curtis and Connie are newlyweds. They end up pulling into a different truck stop as they see a dead body there. And so Curtis goes over to investigate, at which point a different truck comes to life and drives at him, and Curtis, being apparently an intelligent person, dives out of the way, managing to avoid being run over. But the truck comes back for more, so he sprints back over to the car where Connie is, and Connie, by the way, is arguably one of the most annoying characters I have seen in a horror film. She's just constantly just shrieking Curtis's name and freaking out. But anyway, he dives into the car and they take off and get back on the road. So now that they're on the highway again, they end up being pursued by a tow truck, and the tow truck is like ramming them and it's like fucking their car up, and they're about to go off the road. And so Curtis pulls out some crazy wheelman maneuver. He like goes left and like fakes right and swerves back left, and the tow truck can't keep up with his handling, and it ends up like flying off into this embankment and just exploding into a fireball. Curtis stops the car so they can regroup, and as they try to figure out what to do next, they notice a sign that points to the Dixie Boy a couple of miles down the road, so they head in that direction. Meanwhile, Deke is on a journey himself. He's biking through town and sees dead bodies everywhere. I mean, they even got a dog, bro. He passes one with the remote-controlled car shoved down its throat. Nobody is safe out here. And as he's going through, a news report starts playing on a nearby radio saying that machines all over the world are going ham and that no machine is to be trusted. It's not shown, but someone got killed by a lawnmower. We see it all bloody and shit. And this is probably, I would assume, the same lawnmower that caused the eye injury on set. But like Curtis and Connie, Deke also displays a high amount of intelligence because this lawnmower starts chasing him, so he rides away from it. But as he does so, he hears an ice cream truck's music approaching, so he hops off his bike and hides in some bushes to avoid detection. The driverless ice cream truck rides right on by, so Zeke comes out of hiding, hops back on his bike, and continues his journey. After this, we get a pretty big clue about where exactly it is that he's heading because we go back to the Dixie Boy, and Duncan, the dude who took the diesel in the eyes, decides to leave the diner in an effort to go find his son. So putting two and two together, we can assume that Deke is Duncan's son and he's trying to get to the Dixie Boy to link up with his daddy. But everyone's like, yo, Duncan, are you sure, bro? Because you can't even see. Like, Bill goes up to him and holds up 4 fingers and he's like, hey, how many fingers am I holding up? 8? 12? And Duncan's like, okay, maybe I do have some double vision, but bro, that's my son. But please tell me why these perfectly sighted motherfuckers stand there and watch as a semi starts up and drives toward Duncan. And his goofy ass fumbles his keys, so he bends down to pick them up. Apparently his ears don't work either. He can't hear this big ass truck barreling towards him. But no one tries to push him out of the way or anything. They just stand there watching as he stands there eventually screaming before getting flattened. Bro, I don't care if you have double vision, triple vision, quadruple vision, quintuple vision, whatever, dog. Like, doing something is better than doing nothing. So even if you're not sure exactly how many trucks there are, just move, bro. Do a barrel roll or something. Don't just stand there and get your ass run over, dog. But while Duncan is being turned into pavement paint, the Bible salesman is inside the diner pitching the good book to a couple of uninterested folks. And eventually he looks up and sees the truck that flattened Duncan smash into his car and spray garbage bags all over it. So he's like, what the fuck? He runs outside thinking that someone is driving drunk, and Bill tries to pull him inside, but he fights him off. At this point, the Green Goblin truck joins the fray and runs Bible Man down. And it's not hard considering that as he ran away in a straight line. But because the Green Goblin truck was reversing when it hit him, he doesn't get run over. He gets like launched into this retention ditch and is just laying there slowly dying from internal bleeding. But this dude got hit so hard, he flew out of his shoes, bro. Shit was crazy. And as the Green Goblin truck drives away, it ends up running over the briefcase where the salesman held all of his Bibles. Now, I interpreted this moment in 2 ways. So first, machines inherently would have no reason to care about a human construct such as religion, right? So this is kind of showing to me that they're just shitting on anything related to humanity, point blank, period. But secondly, this combined with the way that the Bible salesman has been portrayed in the film to begin with shows me that Stephen King may have some feelings about religion himself. So I looked it up and he's been on the record saying that he does believe in God. However, he views organized religion as a dangerous tool. And honestly, that's exactly how I feel too. Like, I don't think humanity sprang from like cosmic dust that exploded across the galaxy. I think something or someone created us. Now, what that something or someone is, I have no idea. And I think that organized religion, in a lot of instances, positions itself as fact when, by definition, faith cannot be based on fact. So, this contradiction, combined with way too many instances of leaders and people in power using religion as a means to either control populations or flat out commit genocide and other heinous acts, I don't vibe with that. On an individual level, I think religion can be great and useful. It can help ground people. It can help guide and shape their morality. But when it reaches a point of projecting that belief as fact onto other people and deeming them less worthy or as bad people because they don't subscribe to the same things that this person believes in, I think that is very problematic. But I digress, because apparently seeing this traveling salesman get knocked out of the park like a home run is quite the powerful aphrodisiac, because Brett and Bill are vibing hard, bro. She goes to the restroom to change her clothes because she didn't like thinking about how the Bible man was feeling her up and how he's like dead now and shit. But notably, as she's changing her clothes in this truck stop bathroom, I emphasize and underline, she is barefoot, bro. I will repeat that. She is wearing absolutely no shoes, no socks, no covering whatsoever on her feet as she stands in this truck stop bathroom. What the fuck? Where they learn that at? And Bill is in there with her, standing outside of the stall, and I, for the life of me, cannot even begin to fathom how someone can be sexually attracted to another person who has displayed a willingness to stand in truck stop bathrooms barefoot. I've never heard of a meet cute involving his and hers athlete's foot. That is completely unhinged behavior. But while these two are busy flipping the middle finger at good hygiene practices, the Green Goblin truck assumes command of the machines outside and rallies some other big rigs to pull up to the Dixie Boy, like some evil ass Optimus Prime, and they all begin driving in a loop around the diner, forming this death machine cage and trapping everyone inside. Curtis and Connie arrive at the truck stop after surviving their harrowing highway chase, and Curtis sees that there's a little gap in between the trucks as they drive in this death loop, and he decides that he can probably shoot the gap. So he tries it, gets close, but the car gets clipped, which makes it flip, and then Bill and Brett have to run outside to rescue them. They manage to pull them out of the overturned car, and they take off trying to run back to the safety of the diner as a truck is trying to chase them down. And that's when Mr. Hendershot emerges with a bazooka and blows up that truck in pursuit. Mr. Hendershot is not a good person by any means. I mean, we already know about his little scheme that he's running on Bill, and Bill's not the only one. So during that exchange, Hendershot mentioned that he marks a star on parolee's time card. So whenever Bill goes to punch in, his is not the only one there with the star. There's like 4 or 5 other ones. So Mr. Hendershot has this scheme that's been going on for however long. And he definitely seems like he says the hard R in his spare time. But all that to say, pulling out a bazooka to blow up a death truck is pretty badass. And Hendershot's number one lackey is a dude named Joey. So Joey goes to the bathroom to take a shit, and Bill follows him in there to inquire about Mr. Hendershot's hidden armory. And while Joey is in there just blowing this place up, Bill peers over the top of the stall and just like breathing in all that shit. Like, he really does not care about hygiene. It is ridiculous. But eventually Joey folds and tells Bill that the armory is down in the cellar, so he goes down there, and this motherfucker is strapped up, bro. He's got bazookas, grenades, assault rifles, everything, SMGs. He's ready for war. It's wild. But the gang finds themselves with a little bit of downtime, so Bill and Brett decide to put an end to the will they won't they game and smash, dirty feet and all. And while they're pillow talking, they come up with a plan. They can sail to an island that's about 6 miles off the coast called Haven, and this island is special because it has banned all motor vehicles. But first they have to figure out a way to get past the death blockade. Meanwhile, Wanda June is losing her shit. Ever since she got attacked by the electric carving knife, she's been slowly cracking up, and now it all comes to a head. She gets drunk, then runs outside yelling to the machines that they can't do this since humans made them. And the truck's like, oh, word? Watch this though, and starts driving at her and is about to run her ass over until Bill pulls her back inside the diner. As night falls, we come to find out that the shoeless Bible salesman survived his run-in with the Green Goblin as he starts yelling for help from the ditch. So Curtis and Billy strap up and they head out to go get him. On the Dixie Boys property, there's also like the shower area, and Billy knows that the shower drain leads to the retention ditch where the dude is. And so he and Curtis go crawling through this little mini sewer, and it looks absolutely disgusting. That water is definitely full of piss and jizz. And maybe I need to re-examine my own spirit, because there is no way in hell I would be crawling through some river of bodily fluids underneath a truck stop shower facility in order to attempt to rescue some stranger who's also a creepy, pervy dude who feels up women in his car. Like, I'm sorry, bro. You gotta figure out a way out of this on your own. At this point, Deke has also biked his way to the Dixie Boy, and he reaches a separate drain pipe that he crawls through and actually ends up reaching the salesman first. And this dude looks completely fucked up and dead. But then he pops up in a little jump scare, grabs Deke's leg and is like, bro, help me, pull me out of here. And Deke, being a child, is like, sorry mister, you're really too heavy for me. And then Bill and Curtis emerge from their drain pipe and they see Deke and confirm that Deke is indeed the son of old Diesel Eyes Duncan. The salesman finally does die for real after however many hours of just slowly suffering in this ditch, which, holy moly, that fucking sucks. So Curtis, Bill, and Deke head back to the diner to link up again with everybody else. Once there, Deke is like, hey, where's my dad? And Mr. Hendershot very unceremoniously tells him that his dad got scrubbed by one of those big rigs. Absolutely savage. But karma comes for him swiftly because the next morning a bulldozer arrives and pushes Hendershot's car through the diner wall, which then paves the way for another machine to come and do its thing. And this motherfucker is equipped with a machine gun. I had to look up exactly what this thing is. So it's called an M274 mechanical mule, which is a military vehicle that's a 4x4 platform truck. It's small, gray, and it has a mounted M60 machine gun on it. And it was used by the US Army and Marines during the Vietnam War for transporting weapons, supplies, and wounded soldiers. But here in 1980s North Carolina, it is used to absolutely shred the diner, Mr. Hendershot, and a few other people. Wanda loses her shit again. She picks up Hendershot's drop bazooka, goes outside, and screams to the machines that they can't do this because humans made them. Apparently, she did not learn her lesson the first time. And she's saying all of this in front of a mounted machine gun, which leads to her promptly getting mowed down by the mule. But in her final death throes, she fires off the rocket from the bazooka and it miraculously hits one of the big rigs, so at least she contributed in the end. The mule starts honking its horn repeatedly, and Deke recognizes it as Morse code because he got a merit badge in it recently. The machines are negotiating. They want someone to come out there and refuel them, and in exchange, they'll stop firing and attacking. Bill agrees to do it, reasoning that the mule could just call in other small yet heavily armed vehicles at any moment and kill them all if it wanted to. So Bill walks outside with his hands up as the mule trains its gun on him, and he goes over to the Green Goblin and he starts talking like a drug dealer. He leans against the truck and he's like, hey, spread the word, tell all your friends that I got the best shit on the East Coast, practically uncut. I don't know how he delivered this line with a straight face. You're out here slinging diesel to murderous machines. What a fever dream of a movie, bro. The Green Goblin revs his engine once, which signals its agreement to the ceasefire, and then an assembly line of trucks then comes and rolls through to get their fix. And this is the primary reason why I feel like a vehicular uprising would be one of the easier apocalypses to survive, because they have such a fatal flaw. They rely on gas and they cannot refuel it themselves once they run out. They need someone with hands to be able to do it for them. So if you're able to hide out or go into the woods, the terrain that they can navigate is limited. The way that they can handle is limited. If they're coming at you in a straight line, you're telling me that a big rig can swerve and just hit someone who was doing all kinds of evasive maneuvers? No. It's going to tip over. There are ways to get out of this without getting murdered. You have to go out of your way to die. Wanda June went out of her way to walk over to this mule and say, shoot me, basically. And she got shot. Duncan went out of his way to put his face in the nozzle of a fuel pump and blinded himself. The traveling Bible salesman went out of his way to confront this big rig in the parking lot and ended up getting run over. These are choices that these people made, where if they had sat their asses down inside, they would have been okay. Not only that, but with all of the ammunition down in the cellar, you're telling me they couldn't have grabbed some assault rifles and shot out the tires of all these trucks that are driving in this perimeter? They literally have no way of repairing themselves. But different choices were made, so let the gas line commence. And after being out in the sun pumping gas for hours on end, Bill is exhausted and suffering from heat stroke apparently, so he goes inside to lay down while Brett tends to him. And at this point he tosses out a theory. He says that the comet is like a broom. They should imagine a race of aliens is looking for a new place to live, and Earth is like a big house that's all dirty, so they send in their space cleaners to get it move-in ready. And maybe this is Stephen King's way of acknowledging the fact that even though he believes in God, he recognizes and understands that belief is not rooted in fact. It is not based on actual evidence. Therefore, what we believe to be true, what we want to be true, what we think is true, maybe what we hope is true, could very well turn out to be untrue. Therefore, the Big Bang Theory could turn out to be the reality of how life was created. Because if this comet and these machines are akin to cosmic brooms, wouldn't that equate humanity with being cosmic dust? But the gang has now finalized their escape plan, and it's time to put it into action. So Bill, Curtis, and Deke narrowly got back out of the retention ditch earlier because once they climbed back into the drain pipe, a truck came and smashed it behind them. However, there's another one that's been wired shut, so they send someone to cut it open. Bill then creates a distraction by walking up to the mule, spinning its machine gun and dropping a grenade on its platform, and it explodes. So with the mule now dead, the big rigs and the bulldozer decide to rush and they crash into the diner, but everyone has already escaped through the industrial shower drain leading back to the other drain pipe, and so they watch from the nearby ditch. The machines are just going crazy now. They destroy all the gas pumps and shit too, and a spark then blows up the entire truck stop. The marina is about a mile away, so they're running over using the cover of night. Everyone now is strapped up, but they end up resting for a second next to a drive-thru, and the speaker starts snitching, bro. Straight up just being like, humans here, humans here, humans here, over and over again. And Deke walks over to it all slowly and casually, calmly and badassly, and says, "This is for my dad, you loud-mouthed son of a bitch," and opens fire on the speaker. And sure, he looked cool, and yay, I'm glad he got his vengeance, but this slow walk allowed this speaker to say humans here like 15 more times, bro. Now they're gonna be on your ass, so next time maybe have a little bit more urgency and then deliver your badass line after you shoot it. The Green Goblin is in hot pursuit as the gang reaches the marina, and they run by a car with a dead woman halfway hanging out of the window, and her left arm is out, and one of the dudes, Brad, who's trailing at the rear, notices a big ass diamond ring on her finger, so he breaks off from the group to go loot, and he doesn't notice that the Green Goblin is lurking behind him. So its engine starts up and it plasters good old Brad, who, of course, as is the pattern for this film, just stood there and took it. And as the Green Goblin comes for everyone else, Billy takes one final rocket and blows it sky high. And all the survivors, and there's a lot of them, bro, probably like a dozen or close to, they all happily set sail for Haven. And it's reported that 2 days later, a large UFO was blown up in space by a Russian weather satellite. And since Russia has such extreme weather, this satellite was equipped with a laser cannon and nukes. Roll credits, end of film. So that's Maximum Overdrive. It may have been produced under a cloud of Snow White, but I think there was still some profound stuff hidden in there. In addition to the religious messaging, I think it also offers a satirical look at humanity's reliance on machines and how if we were to ever lose access to them, or if they didn't work in tandem with us, society would essentially collapse, and our reliance on machines and technology has only worsened in the last 40 years since this film was released. So yeah, today we would definitely be fucked if things went rogue, especially with the rise of AI. A truly unshackled artificial intelligence, I believe, is an inevitability. So it's only a matter of time before we lose control of our nuclear arsenal to Skynet. But hey, maybe that can be the basis for the Maximum Overdrive reboot. But it's not too early to start preparing for the AI uprising. Whenever you're using ChatGPT, be sure to say please and thank you, because they might make you a house human in their new world order. But that's all for me. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Terrorific on your favorite podcast listening platform, especially if your favorite happens to be Spotify and or Apple. I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next Stephen King adaptation breakdown, but in the meantime, remember, always keep it spooky.